Close your eyes for a second and think about your favorite movie moment. Maybe it's the swelling strings as a hero finally wins. Maybe it's that quiet piano theme that plays when everything falls apart. Or maybe it's a song, one song, and every time you hear it, you're instantly transported back to that scene. That's the power of a movie soundtrack. But have you ever wondered how those soundtracks are chosen? Who decides what a movie should sound like? Why do some films use full orchestras while others lean on pop songs or sometimes no music at all? Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the fascinating process of how movie soundtracks are chosen, from the first script read to the final mix you hear in theaters. I'm Arroyo, and this is Throwback Connects Music to Your Ears, where we talk about all things music. Today, we're talking about movie soundtracks. Before we go any further, we gotta set something straight. When people say soundtrack, they're usually talking about two different things. First, there's the original score. This is music written specifically for the film, often instrumental, and designed to support the emotional arc of the story. Think of the iconic dun 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 or dun 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 dun. Please don't mind my singing. And second, there's the soundtrack album, which may include licensed songs, pop, rock, hip-hop, jazz, alongside or instead of an original score. Think Guardians of the Galaxy, Pulp Fiction, Barbie, or Stranger Things. Some movies rely heavily on one or the other. Some use both. And choosing which approach to take is one of the very first creative decisions filmmakers make. The soundtrack journey usually begins long before cameras start rolling. Often, the director and sometimes the producer read the script and start imagining the emotional tone of the film. They ask questions like, is this story intimate or epic? Should the music be noticeable or invisible? Are we grounding this film in a specific time or culture? A historical drama might call for orchestral or period-accurate music. A gritty indie film might lean on minimal atmospheric sound. A coming-of-age story might use contemporary songs that feel personal and raw. In some cases, directors create playlists while writing or developing the film. These aren't final choices, but they help establish a musical vibe. Music, at this stage, is about emotion, not logistics. If a film uses an original score, one of the most important hires is the composer. Some directors work with the same composer over and over, building long-term creative relationships. This allows them to develop a shared musical language. Once hired, the composer usually reads the script, watches early cuts of the film, and meets with the director to discuss themes, characters, and emotional beats. Together, they decide if there are musical themes for specific characters, and should the music guide the audience emotions or subtly stay out of the way, or when should there be silence, which is very important too. A key point here, music isn't just added everywhere. In fact, many powerful scenes are music sparingly. Choosing not to use music can be just as intentional and effective as choosing the perfect theme. Now let's talk about something most audiences never hear about: temp tracks. During editing, filmmakers often place temporary music into scenes. These are usually existing songs or scores from other films, used as placeholders. Temp tracks help to set pacing, communicate the mood, and show the composer what the director is imagining. But they come with a problem. Editors and directors can fall in love with them. This phenomenon, sometimes called temp love, can make it difficult for composers to create something new that feels just as effective. In some cases, the temp track even ends up staying in the final film, if it can be licensed. Temp tracks quietly shape the final soundtrack more than most people realize. One example that is one of the earliest and most famous examples is 2001: A Space Odyssey in 1968. Director Stanley Kubrick used classical music like Also Sprach Zarathustra and The Blue Danube as temporary tracks during editing. He originally hired a composer, Alex North, to write an original score inspired by those pieces. But Stanley had become so attached to the temp music that he scrapped the original score entirely without telling the composer until the premiere. Isn't that crazy? This case showed Hollywood just how powerful temp love could be. A more successful example is Star Wars from 1977. John Williams didn't reuse the temp tracks, but they heavily influenced his approach. George Lucas edited Star Wars using temp music from classical composers like Holst, Stravinsky, and Korngold. Lucas wanted the epic, old Hollywood orchestral feel those tracks provided. Williams studied that tone and wrote something original, but clearly in the same musical tradition. The result? The temp tracks didn't stay, but they shaped the DNA of one of the most iconic film scores ever written. On the other hand, when a film uses existing songs, there's a whole other layer involved: licensing. To use a song in a movie, filmmakers need permission from the owner of the song's composition and/or the owner of the specific recording. And that can be expensive. Some famous songs can cost hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars for a single use. So filmmakers must balance artistic impact, budget limitations, and cultural relevance. Sometimes a song is chosen because it's iconic. Other times, a lesser-known track is selected because it fits the mood and the budget. And occasionally, a song becomes famous because it was used in a movie, forever linking that music to that story. We will never forget the impact of Running Up That Hill by Kate Bush in Stranger Things 4. The soundtrack doesn't come together in isolation. Behind the scenes, music editors play a huge role. They decide where music starts and stops, they edit cues to match dialogue and action, and they ensure transitions feel seamless. Then there's sound design. Sound effects, dialogue, and music all share the same space. A powerful soundtrack must leave room for things like footsteps, explosions, silence, breaths. The final mix is a delicate balancing act. Music should support the story, not overpower it. When done right, you don't notice the work. You just feel it. So, the next time you watch a movie, pay attention to the music. Notice when it enters, when it disappears, how it makes you feel before you even realize what's happening on screen. A great soundtrack doesn't just accompany the film. It becomes part of its identity. It guides your emotions, shapes your memories, and sometimes outlives the movie itself. Let us know if you have a favorite movie or show soundtrack down below in the shared memory section. My favorite might be Stranger Things, since I can't stop thinking about it. Thank you so much for listening to Music to Your Ears here in Throwback Connect. I'm your host, Ale Arroyo, and I will see you next week.